Good morning, this is Anna Amelia from Northeast Animal Rights. We have Martin Skadal, who is the CEO and founder of World Saving Hustle. He's sitting there in Norway now waiting to talk to us, and we are absolutely delighted to have him. This is part of our Saturday Spotlight fortnight interviews, so I'm very grateful that he's given up his time to do this. Okay, so without further ado, I'd like to welcome Martin and go straight into the questions.
Yeah,
okay.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
Okay, so first question is, your mission statement on your website is to save the world, which is no mean feat. And your main focus is on nature, animals and people. Our group's focuses are quite similar. If you can see on there, around it at the bottom, it says for the animals, for the planets, for the planet, for us. So how important is to you that people connect with nature and with animals?
Okay, first, thanks again for having me here. And yeah, for that question, it's really cool that it's so similar though. And for us, I think it's because like kind of how everything is connected. So for me personally, for example, like before I started World Saving Hustle, the reason why it's like nature, animals and humans is that I come from a background with like human rights. And when I dig deep into how human beings are suffering, I found the climate crisis. And within the climate crisis, I found like animal agriculture, which led me straight into like animal rights. So I think it's important for us and for me, for people to connect with nature and animals to realize that and not maybe realize, but to remember and figure out again that like we're all part of nature. Like we humans are not something separate. And in order for everybody to thrive, it's important to connect with like the bigger complexity of the world that we live in, or like the universe even, but not to get too spacey.
Well, no, that fits in very well with what we do as well, because we always say that you said animal agriculture, that's one of the main polluters of the environment, and we said that if you look after the animals, if you don't have the animal agriculture, you're looking after the planet, and by dint of that, you're looking after the humans as well. So everybody benefits, just because you're looking after nature and looking after animals. So so it sounds great.
Yeah.
So you now have chapters all over the world, as well as all over Norway. So how did your international teams come about? And what sort of different issues are you finding in the different countries and communities? And does culture play a part in those issues as well?
Yeah. So like from the start, we've just had everything in English. So like already then, like because of social media and internet, everyone who somehow sees our content can like read it straight away. So we're like inviting for like an international cooperation, and we've always had the goal of like being international. So through our different networks, we have just connected with like a lot of people. And like for me, like using social media has like a great way to like build up World Saving Hustle also. Also, like me and some other activists, we have been traveling around in like Europe and so on before Corona. And then we also established like pretty good network, and it's basically just like like through our network that we have built our organization so international. And for the question about how the international teams came about, that's kind of the answer for that. But we have like in the organization right now, at least things are changing, I just gotta say, but right now we have like team self-care and team education, team action and so on, team organizers like for the local chapters and so on. And all of these teams are like on an international level, so that we can all like see how it's working in different places to then learn from each other and help. And culture plays I would say culture plays a huge part here. And that's one of the things I'm focusing on now, to trying to understand. But at least having like the culture, if I can say it, as like being like being in the culture of like-minded people, not only doing activism but also like hanging out as friends and so on, plays a part. And how the culture works in Norway and in like India, for example, is very different. So we have to always like figure out how to best communicate with the different cultures and so on. We also had like some projects in Tanzania and Cameroon, so like in Africa, and there again the culture is way different. So it's I would still say we're just a startup, so it's just like we're just like figuring out still. Yeah.
So how is veganism represented in World Saving Hustle?
Yeah. Okay, so all the board members are vegans. I am vegan, and it's kind of like when we started the organization, like because we're trying to be like a network for animal rights, human rights, and environmentalism, but we have to start somewhere, and it's hard to do everything. So we started with animal rights and build like a network there. And how veganism is presented then is like in our presentations and so on, we often say or like or present veganism as one of the core things we as individuals can do, which has like a great impact, a great positive impact on everything, no matter what you work for. And also, of course, like all the food we have is vegan on all of our events. When we cooperate with other or organizations, we also try to like make them have like only vegan food. It's yes, most of the time it works, but not every time. But
So one of the initiatives, when I was reading through your website and having a look for research, I was quite interested in looking at was you do pick a bag, which is aiming to get people to be responsible about their litter and pollution. Now our group does we do regular litter picking around our areas. I mean, obviously it's been a little bit impacted on by Corona because we can't go out as many groups now. We've had to sort of like just stick to a few people. But the litter and pollution, as much as we kind of like go out and pick it up and get rid of it properly, within like a few days or so, it's back again. So how much of this sort of problem do you think is down to individual responsibility, organizational responsibility, like the local authorities and the councils, and the companies as well? You know, the companies who are actually providing, you know, sort of like fast food outlets, and obviously the fast food rubbish goes kind of into the rivers, because we live next to a river, we live next to some woodland, so it goes all over the place. So do you think governments should look at incentivizing organizations, or do you think it's down to us as individuals, or how do you see it?
Oh, that's complex. So we are trying to work on every side of it. So for us, like actually picking up trash is also like a community thing. So like it's not that directly doing like some activism, but it also is, of course, because we're cleaning up the space right there. And I think it's very important for us to individuals, because like we worked with our money. So it's the same with like with veganism, right? Like when we buy animal products, like we demand that, and when we buy like stupid amounts of unnecessary plastic, like we kind of demand more of that. But it's also a lot of like the organization and businesses and so on. And I've seen here in Norway, at least, like a lot of companies are now using like paper instead of plastic, so on, going back to the basics a bit. But maybe it's a bit more expensive, but it's so much better for nature and animals and humans. And it's also like like I would say it's important on every level. And that's also the only way I think that we're going to really like solve the whole issue. But one positive thing also that I can say is that like here in Norway, there's a lot of trash. That's not the positive thing. But actually when we clean up here, it takes a really it absolutely does not become that much polluted again, if you understand.
Right.
And I'm not sure why that's here. Maybe it's not like where you are, but here we've seen like tons of marine pollution and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And when we come back, it's just like maybe small new pieces, but not that much actually.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been there for so many years, and like the layers are like it's deep of
Yeah.
like and so on.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Well, we're finding that as well because we live, I mean, my house is sort of about 100 meters from where the river is. And then sort of about 15 meters from there is all the woodland at the side of it. And we are finding that when you go into the woodland, there's kind of like layers and layers of like older and older rubbish. And obviously, as we are picking the top layer off, you're kind of like coming across crisp packets from like 10 years ago. So we are trying to make inroads, but it's just kind of, it's just so frustrating. We've also spoken to, like McDonald's, who are in our area, and a couple of other places, because they are contributing quite a lot of rubbish. People are having the fast food and they're just dropping everything all over the place. So we are trying to get the companies to take responsibility as well and do their own litter picks. I wouldn't say necessarily join us because it's not going to look good in animal rights group working with McDonald's, but I wouldn't want to condone McDonald's, but that's what we're trying to do. It's like you said, it's like, it's kind of like at every level really, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So World Saving Hustle carries out quite a few different types of activism. I know you do workshops and demos, you do education. You've already talked about collaborating with these existing groups as well. What's your favorite type of activism? And do you think that there's one method which works better than others?
Yeah, like so far, I think one of the greatest things is to always like reevaluate what we do. Because we have many different not products, projects.
Yeah.
Pitching a company here. No? I also have some startups. So
you're pitching animal rights.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's to always like reevaluate what we do, especially now that we're trying to be so like broad and so on, and to be a network. So I can take some example, like the typical like cube of truth, like like that type of activism, like if you do it with AV or Save or none of them or like whatever, but that type of street activism, that is absolutely one of the most like effective ones to get animal rights activists active here in Norway. We've seen, but now people do it from a lot of different groups. But then for like to be a little bit like smart also, the ocean cleanups has gotten us like a lot of funding, so then we can put that into vegan activism also, kind of. Not literally, but kind of. So yeah, it's like to play the game and to understand like what's working and how you get new doors to open where you are and so on. But yeah, so right now I think it's just the action of reevaluating and getting back to work and try something new.
I noticed that you have a big focus on mental health and self-care. I know you've actually got team self-care. You mentioned it at the very beginning there, and this is something which is really important to us as well, because we say that within animal rights, people outside of animal rights don't understand the toll it takes on you mentally, and that you have to look after each other and support each other. Because some of us see some horrendous things, when we are we're doing vigils outside of slaughterhouses, and people who are hunt saboteurs who go out in the fields and look after foxes. It does take its toll, and I think that the lay person doesn't understand the toll. So why is it so important to you as an organisation, and why have you made that such a central focus within your organisation? Because within World Saving Hustle, I mean, within other groups, it tends to be there, but you've actually made it one of your central focuses.
Yeah. So when World Saving Hustle started, we gathered like activists from a lot of different organizations, and what we saw was that nobody was really focusing on like the self-care and mental health as a really like big focus. And we have a lot of people who have experienced like burnout and who are like depressed and like just going through like a really tough time, and also almost like a really dark culture amongst a lot of activists that like, okay, but like the animals or like nature or other human beings have it worse. So I can just do everything I can to help and not think about myself. But the error there kind of is that we all agreed on that if we want to help others, like being nature, animals, or humans, in the best way possible, we have to be at our best possible. So yeah, that's basically why. So we don't want people who are out there fighting for others to let themselves down, kind of. So we want to be there to support them and so on. And we know it's really hard, so therefore we establish an own team to work with this. Yeah.
So what kind of support do you give them?
We've tried different kinds of projects. We'd have like some workshops, for example, just like basic like self-care 101 workshop. Also for leaders in the organization and so on, we had like mindful leadership training. So like how to be more mindful and so on, and also spread out in all chapters is like a self-care checklist.
Right.
It worked for some. It wasn't that popular, but again, it was something we tried out. So and then also our content on social media is like a lot of self-care. And then, for example, in our meetings, we always start with like a check-in and a check-out to like have the community checking in how people are doing. We also have a really good culture of like, if people want to take a break, that's 100% okay. Like some board members have been taking a like total break, and like team leaders, organizers, and so on. And some of them come back, some of them gotta have more time, but it's just like we don't want people to just push.
That sounds really, really good. I mean, I think a lot of organizations should follow what you're doing there and actually, put time and real effort into self-care. It's so important. So last question now then. So what's next for World Saving Hustle?
Actually now we are trying a new project, which is maybe a bit of rebranding or not, but it's a new project. So when we started, we wanted to be like an activist network, right? So right now we are trying out to set up different networks in each city. So like splitting it up a bit, like because the World Saving Hustle groups now are like one group in each city, which together works with like different things. But it hasn't been like a really successful thing, or like it has, but not it has a greater potential. And we want to like unleash that potential. So now we're actually splitting it up, and like in Animal Rights Network, Human Rights Network, and Environmentalism Network. But those three are all connected to an activism network. So like in my city, like in Bergen, for example, we're going to have those three networks, and maybe a lot of people will be in all of those three. But if somebody really just want to work with animal rights, that's like 100% okay. And then they will be there like a core group of activists. And then we will try that in 4 different places in Norway now to see how it goes. And then we will maybe try to go a bit international also. But one of the main things is that we kind of don't want to organize anything ourselves. Like if nothing happens, we can organize it. But we would love to mostly cooperate with already existing organizations. So just being a network, like not kind of organization, but like it's a network.
So you're not kind of like reinventing something which is already there. You're just kind of using what's already there and kind of trying to get them to do sort of like within your aims and objectives, your mission statements to save the world.
Basically. So for example, like if like now if like within animal rights, then all the different organizations which have events for animal rights, then they can all send their events and people like to the network, so they can like find each other and like cooperate.
Yeah,
Mm.
that sounds a really, really sensible way of doing things, because there are a lot of groups who are kind of like doing very, very similar, and rather than kind of reinventing them, just use them as they are. It sounds great.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, that's all of my questions asked now. So thank you very much for joining us today. I really, really appreciate it. Particularly with the lovely scenery behind you as well. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah. It's so random, but yeah. So much
It's better than my scenery in the bedroom with a banner behind.
yeah.
My studio now.
No, yeah. It's
Yeah,
pretty
it's
nice.
absolutely gorgeous. It's absolutely beautiful. but thank you very much anyway, Martin. Really do appreciate you joining us today, and I know that everybody will be fascinated to hear about World Saving Hustle. So I'm going to sign off now and say this is Anna Amelia talking to Martin Skadal, who is the CEO and founder of World Saving Hustle. So goodbye for now, and thank you very much.
Okay, bye bye. Thank you.